Welcome to another edition of That Time When. I am Matt Miller. This is the podcast series where I take you through the archive of Trekzone, diving through all the things that have been, catching things that you might have missed or might want to catch again. On this edition, it's that time when Christian Gossett beamed in for the second time onto Trekzone and told us all about the Axanar that could have been if he'd have been listened to as Prelude's director.
This is Trekzone's That Time When. And you can get exclusive behind-the-scenes info and first-play access to all Trekzone podcasts by becoming a member today. Click join on every Trekzone video on YouTube. Go to the trek.zone/support or scan the QR code on screen throughout the show.
Well, following on from my retrospective and my chat with Jonathan Lane in December, it was an Axanar fan's perspective. As I've said, that I was intending to do that all last year. Stephen Mayhew, Sean O'Halloran were going to come on the show. They were going to have two separate podcasts and they were going to be released side by side on Trekzone. And it was up to the viewers to make up their own mind. It didn't quite work out. I joined the hype with Jonathan Lane, called what we had a debate. It is what it is. It sits there now as a record. It's on the record. You know, there it is. But today, a gentleman is back for the third time on Trekzone because he's got something he'd like to say about Axanar, about Alec Peters, about this whole thing. It is Mr. Christian Gossett, the director of Prelude to Axanar. Christian, thanks for coming back to Trekzone.
My pleasure, Matt. Director and co-writer.
Excuse me. I always get that wrong.
Yes.
Well, half right.
Yes, in fact, I'd like to remind you and everyone that Alec's version of the script, which I really should send in. I should send in the sides that Alec sent me, that I turned into a script. Alec's sides didn't even have the star date in there. I had to remind him that all Star Trek shows have to have someone saying the star date.
But he's a super fan, and he's been watching it since childhood.
He's a super fan. He knows everything. Yeah, well, he doesn't know anything about making movies, that's for sure, as is evidenced by his inability to do so without us.
Now, you were saying something beautiful and eloquent off camera just before we started about the haters. This group of people that has become the haters. That Alec Peters and Axanar are two separate things, and hating Alec Peters is not hating Axanar.
Listen, Alec Peters is the first hater. He is the first hater, and the first victims of his hate was Axanar, the people who made Prelude, the people who made him all that money, the people who gathered all the talent, the people whose credibility brought in the other people of credibility, and who made the movie. We were the first ones to be victims of his hate and his mediocrity, and that's why there has been no credible Axanar since. So yeah, there's this major misconception that there are these detractors. The haters are Alec and Mayhew and those people. They're the ones who are hating. They're the ones who block people. They're the ones who bitterly try to silence any dissent, yourself included. The first time he spoke to you, that hilarious display when you were just asking honest questions, just like Carlos, always asking honest questions. Always people just, hey, look, I've got an honest question. You had $2 million, nothing to show for it. Where'd that money go? Oh, well, it was the studio and it was Christian's idea. Listen, I tried to talk him out of that studio so many times. And the wonderful thing is, the internet. He's in his endless need for self-promotion. When he went on that one blog, I don't know which one it was, one podcast, and he said, the studio is the end game. I mean, he said it in his own words. Thank goodness he did. I wish I had recorded it when he said to me, I need to have something for this money. I can't just make a movie. He said this in his own words. He said, I can't just make a movie and then not have anything to show for it. I have to have a studio so that we can make more stuff after. He said that to me. And one of the times I was telling him, let's make a movie. Let's forget about the studio. But he was adamant about it. He was adamant about having a studio. And he got Rob. Unfortunately, once Rob and I realized we couldn't talk him out of it, Rob really went in for it. Rob was like, what the hell? Let's build a studio. We'll have a studio. For a while, he got sucked up in the hype and had an office there, had a big, beautiful office there. I never had an office there. I went there a few times and looked the place over. And then, I was really not excited about it because it wasn't zoned for production. And again, I had told him, look, if you're going to go getting back to the studio, and I'm just going on a basically stream of consciousness here because it's all one big ridiculous, mediocre comedy of errors with him.
And I'm just sitting back and listening to it all because it's good. This is what I do. I in December I tried to, as I said, I joined the hype with Jonathan Lane, called it a debate, but what I discovered out of that is that I'm a good listener and I'm a good facilitator of time to people that actually have something to say. And here you are, Christian, and feel free to take up 3 hours just as Jonathan Lane did.
Well, I unfortunately can't take that long, thank you. But, Matt, good for you. Good on you for being someone who can say, you know what, hey, look, fair enough. This is what I did. Good for you to own up to it. Unlike Alec Peters, unlike Jonathan Lane, unlike all those people on the hater side. For me, the haters are Alec and his ilk. They're the ones with the hate. They're they're the ones that block people. They're the ones that, just yell down any dissent whatsoever. So good on you. That's the mark of a healthy human being. That's the mark of someone with nothing to hide. And Alec Peters has a lot to hide. He's constantly trying to hide. He's hiding the fact that the studio was his idea, and he wanted it more than anything. Again, thankfully, the internet, we have him in his own voice saying that. I would just love to basically play that over and over and over again to his face and just have him deny it. But moving on, an Emmy-winning Union Grip and Electric person, and I've told this story before. It's kind of frustrating to have to tell it again, but that's the way it works these days. You have to kind of get the message out again and again and again. He said to me, listen, if Alec is set on this studio, which is dumb, we all knew it was completely ludicrous and stupid because he barely knew how to stay out of our way. So becoming all of a sudden a soundstage manager was absolutely ludicrous. And Alec was the only one that didn't know this, which is why, of course, he started getting rid of everybody. Ed Metamorphic, Carter Smith, Jennifer Weberly, myself, Scott Cobb. We all knew that we knew how to make a movie. And he didn't. He wanted a studio. So, but they said, okay, well, we were failing to talk him out of it. And so my friend said to me, listen, don't let Alec sign a lease on anything before I've had a chance to look at it, because we have to make sure it's coded power-wise for production. And of course, I said this to Alec and went one in one ear, out the other, because at that point he believed he knew everything and needed to listen to no one. And he signed this lease on this ridiculous place without telling me, without telling anyone. Oh, I signed a lease. It's in Valencia. It's awesome. He just wanted to be in Valencia. That was his big thing. And he wanted to be in Santa Clarita. And so I was like, dude, I told you, first of all, I told you not to start this studio. You're an idiot. Second of all, I told you not to sign one because of the power demands. You don't understand. It's fine. It's all going to be fine. I'll just pay for it. That was as far as he was concerned, that was just an endless flow of money. And as far as he was concerned, he was all he needed to keep that money flowing. So whatever went wrong with the studio, he would just do another fundraiser. And so I saw this from the inside. Mayhew, you weren't there. Lane, you weren't there. I was there from day one when he first called me and said, hey, Star Trek CBS wants to see if I can produce Star Trek. Will you help me? That's the way he introduced the idea, was that CBS was. And that was just something that, again, another lie of his.